We make judgments and assumptions all the time. There's nothing wrong with making judgments and assumptions. We do it to feel safe and to feel prepared. It's possibly what we do with the judgments and assumptions that may need to be under review, but making them isn't a problem. My job is to undo the harm of crappy diversity trainings and to actually leave you with a tangible, immediately applicable, for free, things that you can do that will actually help you enjoy where you work and provide space for other people to enjoy it too. When we say everyone deserves a park, I think that is both a metaphor and a reality. I think everybody deserves a community. I think everybody deserves a center where they can go to. I think everybody deserves safety. Everybody deserves space for their voice. But we're not actually envisioning people different than us in any kind of leadership position, let alone having a vision of actually shifting our work so that we can move from abstract to actionable. Part of the reason we can't envision it is because some of us have never seen it. And by never seeing it, we don't even know that we're not noticing. That's a key word, notice. What I want to share with you today is that it is an imperative that we move forward. In order to move forward, we have to provide space for everyone, not just the people you're interested in providing space for. And what I mean by this is not some like pinko, commie, liberal, I live in California. Someone's like, of course she lives in California, right? That's not what I mean. Right now, I don't know if you've been watching the news. Some of you are like, nope, gave that up months ago. There are a ton of topics every day that are incredibly complicated. Incredibly complicated. What I want to invite you to do is to have a conversation about the complication. To do something in the complication, not just awaiting an answer. The judgments and assumptions are informed by our lived experience. Our life, from the moment we can remember to today, right now. Some of you, it has been a life goal that you made it to a keynote at 8 a.m. in the morning, right? And it's in New Orleans. You definitely get double the points. What I think is important is that your life, all of your life, is the best tool you have to work with other people. When we talk about doing this kind of noticing, it's about self-reflection, it's about personal responsibility, it's about being who you are, even if it's in the minority. If I'm talking about politics or religion or personal beliefs or incongruent elements about things that you represent or that you believe, that's who you are. I deeply believe that every single person that is hired is actually hired because of those skills, not because of who they might become. Largely because, let's be honest, y'all don't have time or the extra budget or the extra hours to groom somebody to become something else on your staff. What I encourage you to do is to look at the judgments and assumptions you make, because those patterns have taught you this is how you can show up safe. This is how you can show up prepared. When I keynote, I go into different spaces and I have to figure out, am I allowed to have exposed tattoos? I have a lot of tattoos. When I make the judgment and assumption, for the record, y'all would have been fine. This is just a good outfit. But I don't necessarily know if I'm right. And what's interesting about judgments and assumptions is we don't often provide space to find out if we are right. It doesn't matter. We write an eloquent, complicated story to make us feel safe and prepared. For some of us, waking up and showing up is already an act of revolution. I don't want to do anything else. For others, we clock in like a hobby. to like have these difficult conversations, and then we go back to our real lives. That's complicated, and it's true. If you and I can notice the patterns of our judgments and assumptions, we can be reflective on the moments in our life that led us here. The point is not to not make judgments and assumptions, but to notice you do. If you can notice the judgments and assumptions you make, you can embrace the complications that is your life, the complications that made up your history that you bring every day, not just to work, but to the grocery store, to the movies, to a sidewalk. If you can know the judgments and assumptions that you make, then you can be responsible for who and how you are. What would happen if you did the best you can with what you have some of the time? That's kind of more manageable. So if you do the best you can with what you have some of the time, noticing the judgments and assumption patterns that you do, and where they come from, and why they make you feel safe, and why they make you feel prepared, you can understand the complications of what that means, and that it's okay to be complicated. That's not just a relationship status on Facebook. Like, things are complicated. Then what's left is the action. What I invite us to do is to notice the stories we write, notice the judgments and assumptions we make, and then print them out. Triple space with extra wide margins. If you print them out, triple space with extra wide margins, what you are doing is generously and curiously engaging with someone else to seek edits. When we say words like social equity, what I think is at the base of it is a place where people feel like they belong. And I don't just mean some people, but I mean a place where complication can belong. Everybody deserves space. Everybody deserves a park. These are critical conversations that matter. The things that you are seeking the answer, capital T, capital A, the answer, probably is a point that you are not willing, you are not comfortable to actually have a complicated conversation. Those of us that think we know everything, take a second and think about something that makes you uncomfortable, that you don't know everything about. That's how these folks feel when you're in your expertise. You're building community spaces. If someone has chosen your space, they've chosen your space because they don't have anywhere else to go. If you can just hold that space for them and be someone who doesn't know the stickball, and listen to these people who were so excited the Cubs won. Why would I be a buzzkill and tell them that, like, professional sports are expensive and horrible? It's not the right time and place for that truth. I bring this to you because when we talk about moving from abstract to action, sometimes the action isn't doing something. It's shutting your face and allowing someone to be. If you can allow someone else to be, what's weird is it's going to become a habit and you'll start to be. If you can start to be and you allow them to start to be, whoops, you're going to have a conversation that matters. And it didn't even cost anything, and you didn't even have to make a t-shirt. If you can sit in it's complicated and listen, you will have better conversations. More importantly, you will have better connections. It is imperative for our communities to be able to understand that in the spaces that you provide, not only is it complicated to provide them in the first place, but it is complicated to use them as well. When we talk about inclusion, the first step of that conversation should be, who are we excluding? Crappy diversity trainings have taught us to say, oh, we're not excluding anyone. Yes, you are. You do criminal background checks. You figure out who's allowed to use your space. Sometimes they pay dues, sometimes they have to get permits. You police the space as to who is allowed to use it. If you and your organization, your staff, your team can clarify who is not allowed to use your space, you will be able to better serve the people that you're actually trying to include. I'm a do-gooder social justice educator and advocate. Let's be realistic about what it is we actually do. The key is that it's complicated and everyone deserves that space. If we can just stay there, that's already a lot of work. But it moves from these abstract concepts to actions that don't necessarily result in like immediate results, but actions that result in building community. My job is to remind us that conversations matter. If all of us can provide some space, everyone deserves space. Everyone deserves to be heard. Everyone deserves a chance to be seen. That's free. It's just not typical. It's not what we typically do. When we really look at social equity and inclusion, I suggest less paint and more listening. If we can be responsible for who and how we are, that in itself can be revolutionary. If we can do the best we can with what we have, some of the time, we will continue making relationships and connections and having conversations that matter. Everyone deserves a park. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you for the rest of the day.